Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Online Business Academy podcast. And we are also live. Today, we have our special guest, Cathy Millett from Net Branding. And Cathy and I have known each other for a few years. She's prolific in the industry. She's spoken at the social media conference before, keynoting, and I'm happy to have her here in studio and also speaking at the social media conference 2019. Cathy, welcome.
Thanks, Wanita. And again, it's an absolute privilege to connect with you again. I know we do it regularly, but also I think that speaking at the conference is an absolute privilege. And, I know that tickets are still being sold, and I would urge anyone who's sitting on the fence to really consider and take that leap of faith and join the conference.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Cathy. Now, Cathy, you've been with Net Branding for a number of years. It's a company that you started up. And you have the byline, be seen, be heard, be found online.
Absolutely.
And there are a few times where you kind of have, people kind of picking that up and running with it and taking that. But it is an actual, it has been licensed, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. We came up with that byline probably about 2 years into the formation of Net Branding.
Yeah.
Net Branding really came out of the name Net Branding. And I've done videos on this before. So Net Branding, I knew that I was taking businesses onto the internet, and I knew I was branding them online. And so that was way back in the day before digital marketing or social media or SEO or any of those terms were termed a term. And so all I knew I was doing back then was branding businesses on the internet, which is where the name Net Branding came from. And then as things evolved and moved around, the be seen, be heard, be found online came to me, and obviously I adopted that as a slogan and a tagline, and actually it lives on my number plate of my car. And because I believe every single business needs to have a solid foundation in that online space, I trademarked it. And yes, there have been many businesses who have thought that is in total or in part, or extractions of it were perfect or was a good connection to their brand. But because we've been so thorough in our trademarking, we've been able to actually stop that.
Wonderful. And you know what, Cathy, just listening to you, I think it's fascinating because you are one of these businesses that is kind of evolving and changing as the industry evolves and changes. And one of our podcasts with Jeff and Donna, they mentioned, that in 5 years' time, jobs won't be the same. AI will be taking over a lot of things. But you're a great example of, you started on the internet and you started with branding and how you do that on the internet, and now you're a fully fledged digital company that helps businesses. So just talk to us about that and tell us what you're doing at the moment and where is your specialization.
So if we look at where we've come from, and I have gone through the records and I have assessed companies that now call themselves integrated digital marketing agencies, and I believe that Net Branding is the first truly focused digital marketing agency in New Zealand, because we hopped on that boat back when Facebook came out of the waters. And why did we do it? Because at that point in time, people were still laughing at Facebook and going, oh, this will never last. This is not going to last the difference. And I saw initially that there was a huge opportunity for businesses within that environment. And those first businesses that I branded within the Facebook environment, I actually had to brand the owner of the business because I couldn't brand the business. And so that's exactly where it started. But if we look at my journey started 30 odd years before that.
I thought it was 2 years ago.
No. So my journey's been a 30-year-long journey in the IT field. So where many of the digital agencies today have come out of that PR environment, where they were doing PR and then they've bolted on social media or they've bolted on website development. My journey came out of the technology. And because I do have a marketing background and I studied marketing way back in the day, I've got the technology background, which has then been pushed into the digital space. What do we do today? As an organization, we have a team of incredibly competent members, and we are focused on that full spectrum service. So the full spectrum, all the way from the search engine optimization, content writing, website development, social media, Google ads, Facebook marketing, email marketing, and anything in between. And obviously there's digital strategy that fits in there as well. But I do believe our expertise is in how it all hangs together. Because when we work with a client, we may see within the client space that they need a bit more of X in a month or a bit more Y in a month. And so we will suggest to the client what we're going to be doing, gain their approval for the next step that we take them on the journey to that digital maturity. And as we move them down the path, we're doing different things for our clients every month based on what we need or what they need. But at the end of the day, it's all integrated and we have the wider picture. And I think it's that wider picture view that is our strength.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you talk about digital maturity, because you're obviously taking people on this journey. You're taking them through, this is what you need to do now, and this is what you need to change, etc., to take them to the point of where you've obviously discussed with your client, this is the end result. This is what I want to get to.
Absolutely. And the other side of the coin is we often see many agencies with products, and they'll say, well, for X I'm going to do Y, and for Z I'm going to do B. I have a very unique approach to every single one of my clients because, as we've just said, every person and every business is on a different path, and they have different goals and they want to get to different targets. And so depending on what they've got in place at the moment versus where we're going to go is exactly what we do for them. So it's not a tailor-made package that I roll out for Bob, Jill, Janet and John.
Absolutely. And look, I think that sometimes those little packages are great for people starting out that don't have a lot of finances and things like that. But eventually, as companies grow and as they mature and as they really want to get into their digital footprint, it is great to connect with a company like yours.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean that our cost structures are any more elevated than what those small package structures are. But it does mean that it's a very customized service. But it also means that the business owner or the GM or the managing director and their team and myself work very closely with one another. And that becomes quite an intimate type relationship.
Absolutely.
Because I'm exposed to their challenges and I'm also at the coalface when they need that support. A key person in the organisation has left. What do we need to do to minimise that risk?
Absolutely.
And so often I'm involved in some very mission critical events in those businesses' life, as well as emotive events when we all know as business owners we go through trials and tribulations of life, and sometimes I'm at the other end of that business owner or that managing director going through some not great episodes within their own life that you then embrace and work with.
And I know because you kind of help even in terms of security online. You help people when they have reputation, trolls and things like that they've got to deal with, really helping them through some of the emotive things that can happen online. What I'm excited about is this year at the Social Media Conference, you're going to be presenting Social Media, Let's Have a Different Conversation. And it is a little bit different. And without giving too much away to the audience, because I think that you are going to be covering a really heart speak topic is what I want to talk to. And that heart speak is, how are we dealing with our teenagers? How are we dealing with our children online? And because they are the generation coming up, they are the ones that have to be putting up with school bullying. They are going to be going into their own businesses. They are going to be, everything is online for them. So do you want to talk a little bit around that, and without obviously giving too much away, because I think this is going to be fascinating on the day?
I'll give you an example, and I have done some videos on this in the past. The journey to the topic I'm going to talk to at the Social Media Conference has been a journey that has probably been percolating for many years, and it came to the fore early to mid last year. I did a video on it, and it was also a video that was called Let's Have a Different Conversation Around Stranger Danger. And that was probably the lead into some of the work that I'm doing now, which we'll talk to at the social media conference. I think is social media. We've already covered it, Wanita. I am passionate about it. I do believe every business needs to be in that social space. The journey they take is a unique journey, but I believe that it's very short-sighted not to embark on an internet-focused presence of some description. So I need to step aside from my net branding hat as I start having the conversations around social media in another capacity, or an online experience in another capacity. But let's take the topic of stranger danger. We have all had those conversations with our children over a period of time, and we've all had those conversations with those brochures in front of us about stranger danger. Be careful when Johnny goes to the park. Don't talk to the person that wants to give you the ice cream. Don't go with the stranger that offers you the lollies. Be careful of the stranger. So we've had those stranger danger conversations. As an element, and I'm not going to be talking to this at the conference, but as I say, I have done videos, I believe that conversation needs to change, because our little Johnnies or Marys are going into an online environment where they're connecting in those game rooms with other people. They're connecting with their new friends who are coming together in their chat rooms and their groups to play their games on a regular basis. Who are those people really? And when Johnny becomes friends with those people, does the same talk around stranger danger really apply? Or should we be having a different conversation with our children to say, yes, you're connecting with people in these rooms, and yes, you may perceive them as friends, but do you know who those people really are behind the scenes? This conversation started when I had a parent approach me because their children had been approached by a so-called friend in the environment. When they started to become aware of the conversation, and it was only because a friend of this young child had said, I think you need to involve your parents, that they became aware that the conversation was not with the child. That person in that game room, that person behind their Snapchat account, this person behind the Instagram conversation was not a child and was not a school-going child. It was an adult. And the more that the conversation evolved, the more they realized that that person was actually probably involved with a pedophile ring. So I do believe that digital is brilliant. But I do believe that digital and social media and the access that we have needs to have a different conversation. And whilst I'm not going to be talking about stranger danger at the conference, I am going to be moving into that different conversation
space. And look, and this is very prevalent in our society at the moment. It's something, if you know, not only just children, teenagers, youngsters and things like that we do need to be having those different conversations with our teenagers. It isn't about, don't take the lolly and things like that, because these are people that are trained. They know how to manipulate. They know how to get the child talking, and they are pretending to be somebody that they aren't. So very, very prevalent. And I mean, if we took that up and we went, how does that affect, or how does that impact people in the corporate space? Obviously,
Huge.
We're parents in the corporate space. We have children. We worry about our kids. We worry about our grandkids. We worry about the people around us. So yes, it does impact when something like that is happening in your life. It impacts on your work. It definitely does, and I think it is a conversation to be had.
But Wanita, even in terms of, whilst my conversation will be primarily focused on our youth, and youth is a very wide age bracket, because some people can be into their 20s and still actually be more youthful than others.
Yes,
I think that as adults, we're no different in this space, because we're also getting to terms with what this new technology is. And as you say, technology is changing, and it's changing faster than the wind. And often we look at what we've done, and I'm sure you're no different, where you open your eyes one day and you go, do I really know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Because it's changed on you. And the moment you start having conversations, it all settles down again, because you realize you do have some background and some understanding.
And that's where the beautiful community comes in, where, you can have some of those conversations. Sorry, Cathy.
No, absolutely. So we're all in that journey of learning what the next step in this puzzle is going to be, because it's evolving in front of our eyes.
Absolutely.
And we've seen the Industrial Revolution, but I think this digital revolution is on steroids in terms of the things that are happening around us.
Yeah.
So we've never had to raise children in this environment. We've never had
youth,
to, or youth in this environment. We've never had to grow old in this environment as we're doing. Not that we're old, but we'll just use that as a phraseology. It's different, and it's changing, and it's about us embracing it, but it's about us understanding what it means.
Well, let's take this a little bit further, because how many adults do you find that have lost their money online because they've connected with somebody that wanted to date them, and you just had to send X amount of money through, to the person, and then discovered that was a complete scam? Or how many people have invested in a business that they didn't check out online, and they've put thousands into the business, only to find that the person online, who is an absolute, supposed to be social media expert or expert in their field, is scamming people? I mean, how do you actually, have those conversations with people and get them to look at and think differently online?
Absolutely. And I want to say daily, and it is almost daily. Yesterday I had a similar conversation with a business who've been investing in their digital strategy for the last 3 years. And as a backup, I looked at what they had supposedly done versus what the bill was, because I saw the bill. And I couldn't see a thing.
Yeah.
And as a backup, I called a member of my team in, and I went, I'm not even going to look at you, but could you tell me if you see any evidence of X, Y, and Z within this profile? And her response was, no. And we're talking about a 6-figure spend over 3 years. So, if somebody's listening to this podcast and you're considering moving into the digital space, or you're using a service provider and you don't understand what you're getting from them, have a conversation. And again, that comes back into my topic of the
have
course.
a different conversation.
Have a different conversation, and turn to somebody and edify and check out and do what you're doing. But let's go back into the adult world. How many times haven't you sat in front of a Facebook story or a Facebook post, and you've looked at somebody else's life and you've gone, oh my word, they really look like they've got it all together. What am I doing wrong? And you've questioned yourself. And again, that comes back to, let's have a different conversation, because we've all become our own PR agency.
Yeah.
And we're only putting out the good bits.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about being unique and being authentic and things like that, but really, and I think that is a conversation to have, is how authentic is authentic online, because obviously people don't want to see you getting out of bed and brushing your teeth and having breakfast and things like that, obviously depending on what you do. But in our space, they definitely don't. They want to have value, but they do want to get to know the person behind the scenes. They do want to get to know that, you do actually have really bad days sometimes. Sometimes things don't go the way that, and look, there's nobody that has the perfect life. Like, there is nobody that has an absolutely perfect life. I always say, you can be fooled by some of the things that happen on the line. You can be fooled by the impressions that people are giving, but nobody has it all together.
No.
And it is about, in yourself, going, I'm actually doing okay. And if I'm falling apart, who do I go to?
Absolutely.
Who do I speak to? How do we have these conversations?
And I think that's, again, the important element. But it's about having that mindset, that thought, that inner confidence that can come out and can put a coating around a perception you may have.
Yes.
And go, well, it looks like Wanita's actually got this perfect life, and at the moment my life's not that great. But then to stop and actually go, hold on one sec.
Yeah.
That's only one image.
Absolutely. We were speaking in one of the other podcasts about how multifaceted people are, and how Cathy, you can be this mother and totally fun, and then you can be this businesswoman and totally professional and serious, and then you can be this mentor and a giving, heartfelt and so you're so multifaceted. And it is about how do you see the person for everything that they are. Listen, everybody out there, I'm going to tell you that I don't have everything together. So just know it. I'm saying that there, but you know what? It's trying every day, and it's really working on the things that you're good at.
Absolutely.
And pulling in people that help you to shine, and having the community around you that can help you to shine.
And I think that's exactly it. It's none of us have got it all together. We are all going through the ebbs and the flows of life.
Yeah.
But I look back on some of those ebbs that I've been through.
Yeah.
And I now acknowledge that those ebbs were the stepping stone to the next peak.
Yes.
And so whilst maybe I didn't communicate the lows, they certainly have taken me to that next level, or that next conversation, or that next thing. And I think, even out of the social media digital world as business owners, it's about actually growing into the role of that director, that business owner, that manager.
Absolutely.
Where your persona and your natural point of view can be very collaborative, can be very connecting. But there are times where you do have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a conversation you're not comfortable with.
Absolutely.
But it still has to happen.
Absolutely. And I think, and I'd love your take on this, Cathy, because there's sometimes where, especially in groups, and you talk about LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, and things like that, people have the conversations, or they'll put things up that I almost wonder whether there isn't a filter or something beforehand where you cast the question and go, do I put this up, or do I go and actually directly go to the company that's maybe made the mistake instead of putting something up? How do we handle that, and how do you teach people these filters? I mean, what's your take on this?
I think that's a very hard one, and I think it would be if we use a community on a spectrum of how do I phrase this politely? We've got our narcissistic personalities, we've got our people who are looking for self-gratification through a comment. And we have people that have got their own agendas in that online space.
Yeah.
So I think your suggestion, which is let's put our filter on and let's think about what we put online before we place it there, is a very normal part of the spectrum type of approach. But when you've got a person looking for self-actualization, or a troll looking for the reactive comment, or a person looking for a narcissistic feast, you're not going to be able to alter that personality type before they go online. And as I said earlier on in the podcast, I believe every single one of those people have become their own PR agent.
Yeah.
And often they move into an online space because they're seeking that response.
Yep.
And so as a digital marketer, as a social media marketer, or as a communicator online, it's to take that deep breath once that comment comes in, and to go, right, how do I protect my business and my brand in that comment, but yet respond to it appropriately?
Yep.
Because you don't want to feed the monster.
No.
And again, it's a very difficult thing to do at times. And my recommendation with clients is to usually acknowledge it and respond if appropriate, but take it offline as soon as you can, because you want to blast away the energy that comes from that dialogue.
Absolutely. That's great advice, Cathy. I do want to tell you I had, this was on a personal Facebook post. I had a friend go on a rant on a personal Facebook post. And guys, listen to this, because it is exceptionally important for you to know, know what I'm talking about here. They went on this huge ramp, and they said things like, this da-da-da-da person is a da-da-da-da. Guys, look, I'm not a swearer, but this effing person is stupid, and how dare they attack my child, and I'm going to hunt you down, and really went off on this total rant, okay? And I looked at it and I took this deep breath. I went, oh my gosh, that is not for Facebook. Like, that is something, if you really have that issue, go and sort it out with the person, right? And it was so interesting to watch the comments on there with, people coming in and obviously friends of hers going, I'll come and fight them for you, and, we'll beat them up. And I was kind of looking at this and thinking, wow, we're breeding this culture of it's okay to put something up there like that, and it's actually okay to respond like that as well. We don't know both sides of the story. We don't actually know what really happened, because nothing was put up of what the actual story was. So for me, it was a pity fest, right? It was this is me getting myself out there so I can get these comments and these, things like that.
I mean, we need to be going slightly off the topic, but I completely agree with you. And I think that there is an emotional intelligence around responding to a comment. But also, I think that in the space where somebody has commented like that, you're right. It's about where is the balance? How does it come through? But more so, I feel, and I probably think it was towards the beginning of my social media career with net branding, I spoke about the concept of the anonymity of the screen.
Yeah.
How often I will not have that conversation with you, but I can easily sit behind my keyboard and type it out.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the question.
Yeah.
Would I say that to Wanita face to face?
Yeah.
Or will I only say it when I have this online board in front of me? That's the first thing. But the second thing, if we look at the human nature, and by no means am I a psychologist of any description,
No.
but human nature, and I've become so intrinsically aware of this over the last period, where it's very easy to go, oh my word, did you see that thing that somebody said about Wanita, where somebody else adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
And there have been situations like that where I've gone, hold on one sec. We don't know the full story.
Yeah.
Why don't we rather park the conversation and let's talk about something else?
Yeah.
Because often the person that hops on the bandwagon is dealing with their own demons, and in actually coming to the fore, they're deflecting from themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But here's the thing, Cathy, because you said it might be going slightly off, but it actually isn't, because one of the things then, for me personally, when I see that kind of a thing happening online, I always go and look at the person's profile, and what's the first thing that you look at? Who's the company that they're working for? Because it's up there, and I go, oh my gosh, does this company actually know? Do they see these things? Do they know? Because here's the thing. That is a reflection. So you talk about having the different conversations. I think people need to understand that whatever you do online, whatever you do, it leaves a footprint.
Absolutely.
And so when you're trying to apply for that job years to come, or when you are trying to get your company up and running and all of these things start to surface, it's just something that you need to deal with again and again and again to kind of squash all those rumors, to get rid of the things that you were doing previously. So it is putting the filter on and thinking a little bit, but still being quite authentic about it,
Absolutely.
And I think it's those different facets of how you deal with things.
And let's even take it out of, because obviously we said net branding as an organisation deals with multiple areas of the digital.
Yeah.
Let's take it out of the social context and take it into the Google reviews.
Yeah.
In Google reviews, you're sitting with those same people that have that anonymity of the screen. And with Google reviews, you're actually sometimes as an organization powerless to be able to deal with some of those reviews. I mean, we have been fortunate that we've had Google reviews. Let me say it quietly, Google reviews removed for clients.
Yeah.
But that is a process in itself.
Absolutely.
And, when you are dealing with professional organizations, people can cause an immense amount of damage through moving into that space and delivering communication that's not quite on par.
Absolutely agree with you. Now, Cathy, we're going to close off, but before we do, I'd love you to give the audience a tip, so something that you would tell them to do or not do in the online space or for their business. Go for it.
I think I've always got so many tips to share and give. I think out of this conversation, I think whatever you're doing in that online space is be authentic, be yourself, share your personality and embrace your differences for your brand in that environment. That would be my tip out of this conversation.
That is such a great tip. Cathy, thank you so much and thank you for joining the podcast. Really appreciate it. And the live, for those of you out there that are wanting to come and really listen to Cathy at the conference, we've only scraped the surface about her talk of let's have a different conversation. I think you're going to be surprised at what comes out of that. Go and book your tickets. Come and listen to Cathy. She is an awesome speaker, and I know that you're going to get such great value out of her. Thank you.